this is Optibotimus coming with another video review, and today I'm bringing you something that I have been looking forward to for a very long time. Now, coming later this year, Nickelodeon will be debuting the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon series. And today in my local Toys R Us, I finally found, for the very first time, the new TMNT figures from Playmates. As you can see, new stylized look to them, much like the new cartoon look. Really cool packaging, very kind of small packaging, not too big, but really kind of cool. Flip around here on the back, and you see other figures that are in the line: Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, Shredder, Krang, the Foot Soldier, Splinter, and of course, April O'Neil. And you can check everything out at nick.com/TMNT and playmatestoys.com. And you got a little bit of a bio up here. One thing that I actually find kind of interesting, it kind of looks like Donnie's got a gap between his teeth. That's kind of interesting, and he's really kind of goofy looking in that picture. And it says, mutated from ooze and raised in the ways of ninjutsu by the rat sensei Splinter, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are ready to venture outside their sewer lair to fight evil everywhere. And then we get a little bio here on Donnie himself. It says that he's an inventor and weaponeer. Inventive and detail-oriented, Donatello may be the only mutant turtle that doesn't mind a little time indoors. After all, where would the ninja teens be without their incredible battle creations? From the Shell Razor to the robot Metalhead, Donatello's mind is just as sharp as the blade on his naginata, whatever, bow staff. And his weapons is a naginata. I can't say that. Which is basically a 6-foot bow staff with a blade. Which is kind of interesting. A blade, huh? Okay. And obviously his team is Ninja Turtles, so very kind of cool. I'm so excited about getting this guy open, so I'm about to rip it open. Let's see how cool these new Ninja Turtle figures actually are. Alright guys, so here we have Donatello open up and out of its packaging. And up front, I gotta tell you that you guys know I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan. Through the many years here on YouTube, I've done Ninja Turtle reviews, going all the way back to some of the mutating ones, some of the old ones, you know, things like that. I absolutely love the way that this guy looks. These new figures are fantastic looking. The amazing thing is that each and every one of them seems to have a little bit of a difference between molds, just to kind of add some extra character to each individual figure. I'll get into that a little bit more when I do a comparison, but starting things off, obviously, here's Donatello. Very cool. Definitely looks like Donatello. Now, one thing that I absolutely love is his face on here. Now, granted, I would have liked if his face was a little bit different in terms of his mouth. I would have liked to see his mouth be open a little bit, just to see that gap in his teeth, which I just think is wonderful. It's so very kiddish. It's kind of, honestly, I really dig it, because Donatello being my favorite character, I really like that. And if that character actually has that gap in the actual cartoon series, I'm gonna like that a whole lot more. Because when I was young, like I said, Donatello was my favorite, and as a kid, I myself had a gap in my teeth. So that kind of draws a little bit of a connection between my childhood and these new figures, in the new characters themselves. But you can see, absolutely gorgeous looking figure. I mean, it really does capture the look for Donatello. I love the face on here. Now, while I would love it if he had the open mouth where you could see the gap, this is definitely a good mouth sculpt for Donatello. He's got this very kind of serious, I'm focused look, which is absolutely what Donatello should have. Now, a couple of the things that a lot of people have already kind of, I don't want to say really criticized, but have kind of complained about is, number one, as you can see, they have 3 toes. 1, 2, 3. Now, people have been like, oh, that's weird. None of the other ones have it. In actuality, all the turtles in the previous incarnations have all actually had 3 toes. The only thing is, they had 2 in the front and 1 in the back. The back one was always kind of their heel, whereas this guy just has just a regular flat kind of heel there on the back. So it doesn't really bug me all that much. It does kind of look weird, I'll be totally honest, but realistically, when you think about it, they got 3 fingers. Why wouldn't they have 3 toes like this? I mean, it just kind of seems to make sense. And it really does actually kind of work for me and doesn't bug me at all. The other thing is, people were really hoping that they didn't have pupils. Now, the pupil thing kind of came around with the TMNT CGI movie, and it kind of creeped people out. And honestly, it never really bugged me all that much. But it is nice to see that they went back to the just all white eyes, much like the classic look. Very cool. Now, in terms of his accessories, he does come with his bow staff, which I have a couple minor nitpicks with it. Now, it is a little bit shorter. That's the biggest problem that I have with it. It's a little bit shorter, and my camera's kind of focusing on him. But while this is a little bit shorter, it doesn't bug me too much, other than the fact that, well, I mean, you can see that this section of it is a lot thicker than this section. Now, again, that doesn't really bug me all that much. I kind of like it. Makes it look like it's more of an actual piece of wood, I suppose. But to get it in there, you really have to kind of go through the top and slide it all the way down, because the way that the hands are, it's hard to actually kind of get it to spread apart to actually get that part in there. So there you see Donnie holding his bow, but you can definitely see that it's a little bit smaller than what we're kind of used to. Not overly bad. It just minor nitpick. Minor nitpick, I suppose. But, I mean, it really is a great looking figure. I mean, honestly, come on. It's Donatello. So very cool. Now, everybody knows that Donatello's my favorite, so I'm a little bit biased when it comes to it. But really kind of cool, and like I said, it just kind of stores right here in the back, which is very cool. As for his other accessories, I'm probably just going to leave him here on the spew, but as you can see, it's got the little Chinese throwing stars. It's got the bow with the actual blade on the one end, and then it's kind of got like a 3-section nunchuck, which you got one wooden section, another wooden section, and another, and they're all connected by chains, I suppose. Now, that kind of bugs me that they do that, but I understand it. You know, they're kids' toys, so I'm not overly going to be critical of that, but there you have that. Like I said, I'm just going to leave it on here because it's the classic weapon that I like. Now, in terms of Donatello compared to his other versions, here he is, and here you have him next to the couple other more recent Donatello versions, the more 2000 series version right here, and then obviously this is the CGI version of Donatello, which has the pupils on his eyes. As you can see, these guys are kind of good scale together, but this is obviously a much bigger figure. And then compared to the other 3 turtles from the new series, you can see also that there is a distinct difference in terms of the sizes, which is absolutely very, very cool. I love seeing that. That is something that really impresses me, and it's not something that I've seen before in other Ninja Turtle figures. You can see that Mikey's obviously the shorter one, and really when you look at it, Donatello looks like he's the tallest of them all. But also you can see the difference in terms of the color on the skin, as well as the other bandages. I mean, they're different kind of color tones. Obviously the different color bandanas, but the chest is different on each one. They all have different kind of wounds and such. And then even on the actual legs and the arms and things of that nature and the head, there are different molding things to it. Like, for example, you look at Raphael and he's got a much more worn look. He's got a lot of kind of damage. Like, there's a lot of scratches on his neck, a lot of scratches on his head. Donnie really doesn't have that. Very kind of smooth, and not as much in terms of the scratches. And then obviously the chest piece, you can see Raph has this giant chunk taken out. He's kind of got slashes right there. He's got a slash there, and then Leo's got a couple scratches. So very cool. I love the fact that they're all kind of different looking. Now, in terms of his articulation, it's actually fairly good. He's got a lot of joints, but his posability is a little bit lacking, I guess. His head is on a ball joint, which is something that we're kind of used to with a lot of these new figures, but you can see that the ball joint really doesn't have a heck of a lot of range of motion. You can get it into some, well, just about every position that you want. It's just, it doesn't have a tremendous amount of motion or range of motion for it. The arms here at the shoulders are on pin and socket, so they rotate all the way up, they rotate all the way around, all that stuff. Pin and socket here at the elbow, so back and forth, rotate, and then he also rotates at the wrist. The hips here are on pin and socket, so they rotate forward and back, and then you kind of have to rotate them around to get this kind of in and out movement. But very good and not very cumbersome at all, which is something that I was afraid of at first. The knees here are also on pin and socket, so they bend back and forth, and they also rotate. But again, like if you look at the elbow, that's only as far as it actually bends up. So the range of motion is a little limited, but he's got all the joints in the right place. And then you can kind of sort of, I mean, you're not going to get a lot of posability with it. Like I said, you can't get, well, you can't get a lot of poses with it. I mean, a lot of them are kind of going to be limited, but it is a very, very well articulated figure, and the articulation really isn't all that hindered by any of the joints themselves. Really very kind of cool. Now, when it comes down to it, guys, these Ninja Turtle figures are absolutely wonderful. Every now and then we get some new Ninja Turtle figures and new Ninja Turtle cartoons or movies or things of that nature, and they always come out with some really nice kind of toys to go along with it. This is absolutely no exception. Depending on where you actually get these, the price is going to range from $9 and $11, I believe. I picked these up actually at my local Toys R Us, and they were only $8.99, which, if you ask me, is a really good price for this figure. Definitely well worth it, and I highly recommend picking these guys up as soon as you see them. So, until next time, guys, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been Optibotimus. I'll talk to you later.